Hello everyone, the name of the story is a wonderful love story about a missing wallet. One snowy day as I walked home, I came across a wallet that had been left on the sidewalk. I took it and searched inside for identification so I could contact the owner. However, there were just $3 in the wallet, as well as a crumpled note that appeared to have been in there for years. The return address was the only thing that was legible on the worn envelope. I began to open the letter in the hopes of uncovering any information. Then I noticed the year 1962. Nearly 60 years had passed since the letter was written. It was handwritten in a very feminine hand on powder blue stationery with a small flower in the left corner. It was a Dear John letter informing the addressee, whose name looked to be Michael, that the writer was no longer able to meet him due to her mother's restriction. Despite this, she stated that she would love him forever in her letter. Hannah, it was written. It was a lovely letter, but the owner couldn't be identified save for his name, Michael. If I phoned information, the telephone operator might be able to locate a phone number for the address on the envelope. I dialed right away. "Hello, operator, this is a strange request," I began. "I'm looking for the owner of a wallet that I discovered. Is there any way you could inform me if an address on an envelope in the wallet has a phone number?" She recommended I speak with her boss, who paused for a bit before saying, "Well, there is a phone listing at that address, but I can't give you the number." She said she would contact that number as a courtesy, explain my situation, and ask if they wanted her to connect me. She was back on the line after a few minutes of waiting. "I have a group of people who will talk to you." I inquired as to whether the woman on the other end of the telephone knew anyone named Hannah. "Oh," she exclaimed. "We purchased this home from a family with a Hannah named daughter. But that was 30 years ago. Do you have any idea where that family might be right now?" I inquired. "I recall Hannah having to put her mother in a nursing home a few years ago," the woman reminisced. "Perhaps if you contacted them, they would be able to locate the daughter." I dialed the nursing home's phone after she gave me the name. They said the old lady had died a long time ago, but they did have a phone number for where they thought the daughter could be. I thanked them and dialed their phone. Hannah was now living in a nursing home, according to the woman who answered. I thought to myself, this whole thing was ridiculous. Why was I making such a huge deal out of locating the owner of a wallet containing only $3 and a nearly 60-year-old letter? Nonetheless, I called the nursing facility where Hannah was supposed to be residing, and the man on the other end of the line said, "Yes, Hannah is staying with us." I asked if I may see her despite the fact that it was already 10 p.m. "Well, if you want to take a chance," he continued hesitantly, "she might be in the day room watching television." I expressed my gratitude to him and drove over to the nursing home. At the door, I was greeted by a night nurse and a guard. We climbed to the third story of the massive structure. Hannah was introduced to me by the nurse in the day room. She was a sweet old lady with silver hair, a bright smile, and a twinkle in her eye. I informed her of the wallet's discovery and showed her the note. "Young man, this letter was the last communication I ever had with Michael," she stated as soon as she saw the powder blue envelope with that little flower on the left. She averted her gaze for a little period, deep in meditation, before softly saying, "I loved him very dearly. My mother, however, thought I was too young at the time because I was only 16 years old. Oh, he was very attractive. He reminded me of actor Sean Connery." She went on to say, "Yes. Michael Goldstein was an amazing man. Tell him I'm thinking of him if you happen to come across him. And tell him I still adore him." She paused for a second, almost biting her lower lip. You know, I never did marry, she continued, smiling as tears welled up in her eyes. I guess no one has ever come close to Michael. I thanked Hannah and bid her go. Was the old lady able to help you? The guard said as I stood near the door after taking the elevator to the first floor. I informed him that she had provided me with a lead. At the very least, I have a surname, but I guess I'll put it aside for the time being. I spent nearly an entire day looking for the owner of this wallet. I'd taken out my wallet, a plain brown leather case with red lacing on the side. Hey, wait a minute, exclaimed the guard when he spotted it. Mr. Goldstein's wallet can be seen there. With such vivid red lacing, I'd be able to spot it from a mile away. He has a habit of misplacing his wallet. I must have found it at least 3 times in the halls. What is Mr. Goldstein's name? As my hand began to shake, I questioned. He's one of the 8th floor's old-timers. Mike Goldstein's wallet, without a doubt. On one of his walks, he must have misplaced it. I hurriedly thanked the guard and dashed back to the nurse's office. I informed her of the guard's remarks. We returned to the elevator and boarded. I hoped Mr. Goldstein would be awake. I suppose he's still in the day room, the floor nurse on the 9th floor stated. At night, he enjoys reading. He's a sweet old man. We entered the sole room with lights on, where a man was reading a book. The nurse approached him and asked whether he had lost his wallet. Mr. Goldstein looked up, put his hand in his back pocket, and said, "Oh, it's gone. This good gentleman discovered a wallet, and we were wondering whether it was yours." I handed Mr. Goldstein the wallet, and as soon as he saw it, he smiled and said, "Yes, that's it. This afternoon, it must have fallen out of my pocket. I'd want to present you with a prize." I answered, "No, thank you. However, I must inform you of something." I read the letter hoping to figure out who owned the wallet. His smile vanished from his face all of a sudden. "Did you get a chance to read that letter?" "I not only read it, but I believe I know where Hannah is." He turned pale all of a sudden. "Hannah? Do you have any idea where she is? How is she doing? Is she still as attractive as she used to be? Please, 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 please tell me," he implored. "She's all right. She's just as lovely now as she was when you first met her." I whispered something. "Could you tell me where she is?" the old guy asked, his face lit up with anticipation. "I'd like to call her the next day. You know something, mister?" he continued as he grasped my hand. I was so in love with that girl that when the letter arrived, it felt as if my life had come to an end. I've never been married. I suppose I've always admired her. "Come with me, Mr. Goldstein," I said. The elevator carried us down to the 3rd floor. The corridors were dimly lighted, with just 1 or 2 small nightlights illuminating our path to Hannah's day room, where she sat alone in front of the television. The nurse approached her. "Hannah," she whispered, pointing to Michael, who stood at the doorway with me. "Are you familiar with this individual?" She shifted her spectacles, looked about for a moment, but said nothing. "Hannah, it's Michael," Michael replied quietly, almost whispering. "Do you recall who I am?" "Michael," she exclaimed. "I don't think so." "Michael. You're the one." "Michael, my Michael." They embraced as he proceeded slowly towards her. With tears running down our faces, the nurse and I fled. "See," I explained. "Watch how the Almighty works. It will happen if it is meant to be." 3 weeks later, I received a call from the nursing home at my office. Can you take a day off on Sunday to go to a wedding? Michael and Hannah are getting married. It was a lovely wedding, with everyone in the elderly home getting dressed up to join in the festivities. Hannah looked stunning in a light beige outfit. Michael stood tall and dressed in a dark blue suit. They elevated me to the position of best man. The hospital offered them their own room, and you had to visit this pair if you ever wanted to see a 76-year-old bride and a 79-year-old husband acting like two teens. It was the ideal finish to a nearly 60-year love affair. More informative videos will be added to this channel in the future. To stay up to date on the latest videos, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell.